Hello everyone, my name is Ignacia, and I want to welcome you to my first video. Today we're going to be looking into the unsolved case of the boy in the box. On February 25th, 1957, the body of a male child was discovered in a cardboard box near a remote region of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This case has been classified as a homicide, and the cause of the boy's death was determined to be that of blunt force trauma. It's 60 years later, and the identity of the boy in the box and his murderers still remain unknown. So, why hasn't anybody solved the mystery of the boy in the box? Let's take a look at why it's been so hard to crack this case. We'll start with the condition in which the boy's body was discovered. The boy was discovered nude and wrapped in a flannel blanket inside a cardboard box, hence his name. Although his body appeared malnourished, his fingernails, toenails, and hair had been recently trimmed. His hair was trimmed in such a hasty manner that clumps of it still clung to his body. Authorities thought this was an attempt to mask his identity. His body had several bruises and scars in various places, but were mainly concentrated around his head and face. In total, he had 7 scars, including an L-shaped scar on his chin. The boy's hands and feet appeared waterlogged, indicating he was submerged in water before his death. A mysterious dark brown residue was also found inside the boy's esophagus, which could have been a result of vomiting right before death. So, by now, a lot of people have already heard this information or read about it somewhere. In fact, this case is pretty infamous. I want to offer everyone a new perspective. This story has been covered by many people, but all seem to report the same thing. But I want to know why this case hasn't been solved. So, as an outsider, when I look at all this information, the first thing I would do is compare photos of children who went missing from years 1950 through 1957 to the boy in the box. The boy's age was approximated to be between 4 to 7, so I chose 1950 as the starting date. Using the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, I searched every state with this criteria just for good measure, though I only expected results from nearby states. 2 results were returned, both from New York. One of the possibilities includes Stephen Damon, who went missing around October 31st, 1955. The body of the boy in the box was discovered only 2 years later after Stephen's disappearance, so there is a possibility that it could be him. Stephen also had a small scar on his chin, similar to the description of the boy in the box. Investigators thought this as well, but 46 years have already passed by this time. Keep in mind, they tried this out in 2003, and the remains of the boy in the box were far too degraded to extract nuclear DNA. However, mitochondrial DNA was extracted from one of his teeth, and a genetic relationship through maternal lineage indicated that Stephen Damon was not the boy in the box. Another possibility was Frederick Holmes, who went missing around May 25th in 1955. Frederick's sisters contacted the police when they heard about the boy in the box. DNA samples from the sisters did not match the boy in the box. Let's look at the evidence next. 3 key items were discovered alongside the boy in the box: a large cardboard box, a flannel blanket, and a blue corduroy cap. The box originally contained a baby bassinet that was sold by JCPenney, but due to a cash-only policy at the time, it was impossible to track down who purchased the bassinet. The blanket was widely distributed throughout the globe, making it difficult to pinpoint one sale. But the cap did have information of value, as it was modified with a strap by request of a customer. The creator of the cap was able to recall a general description of the man who purchased the cap, but was unable to provide any real significant information from their brief encounter. Subsequently, no DNA evidence, including fingerprints, was found on these items. It's 2016, and obviously the investigators assigned to this case throughout various times have already conceived and proceeded with these ideas. This also includes obtaining fingerprints and footprints and comparing them to records of nearby hospitals, but despite a thorough investigation, no matching prints were ever found. After looking into this case for the past month, I've come to the conclusion that it's been thoroughly investigated, and the detectives who've handled it should be praised for the amount of work they put into solving it. One of the most prominent theories that arose during the investigation was the M theory. A businesswoman, referred to only as M, stepped forward to claim that her mother purchased the boy in the box for an undisclosed amount of money. M told investigators that the boy's name was Jonathan and that her mother purchased him just to subject him to physical and sexual abuse. M revealed that her mother killed Jonathan in a fit of rage after he threw up in the bathtub. Both M and her mother cleaned him up and drove him to the remote area where they dumped his body in a nearby discarded cardboard box. At the time, a motorist happened to be driving by and stopped to see if they needed any help. Both M and her mother kept their backs turned until he left. The testimony of the motorist was eventually accounted for, and the 2 stories matched up. A lot of M's testimony was of public information, including this event, which was reported in the Evening Bulletin in 1957. M confided this information to her psychiatrist for a period amount of time before she informed the police of this event. During these days, seeing a psychiatrist branded you as crazy and unreliable, though M's psychiatrist reassured investigators that all this time, M has never once changed or strayed from her original testimony. Investigators ended up visiting M's childhood home, but it was far too late to find any leads. They were able to question some of the neighbors, but were informed that the family they were inquiring about had only a daughter and they knew nothing about a boy. I want to reiterate that it's been some time before the investigators actually went down to M's old neighborhood. Though they could account for an area in the basement that she said Jonathan was kept, the house had been acquired by many owners since then, so finding any valuable information was impossible. Out of all these theories, this one seems the most possible. M's account for detail made me want to look into this lead a bit more. I wanted to see why this theory hit a dead end, so using various resources, I tried to track down M's parents. What I found out was that both of her parents worked in the Lower Merion School District of Pennsylvania, and specifically her dad was a high school science teacher and her mom was a librarian. Now, there's a number of schools in the Lower Merion District, but there's only 2 high schools. Originally, I tried to call one of the high schools, but the woman who answered was reluctant to give me any information for privacy reasons. I tried to call one of the many libraries in the school district. I was able to generate one lead in which I was informed of an employee who worked there during the 1950s and was married to a teacher who worked at the Lower Merion High School. I won't disclose the person's name due to privacy, but if you'd like to know, feel free to message me. First, I did a search on the internet to see if I could find any possible relations through Ancestry meeting the description of a family of 1 daughter. I wasn't able to find anything concrete. Moreover, it was difficult finding information on this person as they were possibly born during the 1910s. Next, I compared last names in online versions of the Lower Merion yearbooks during the 1950s. I was unable to match any last name to the name I was given. My conclusion is, even though the information I was provided could have been incorrect, the sheer amount of time that has passed greatly influences whether or not this case can be solved. Granted, I had limited resources as I do not live in the same area and do not have access to the actual case files, though I'm unsure how much information is available to the public. I do believe this case can still be solved, as some of the information might have been overlooked, including footprints and medical records. If this is the case, someone who lives in Pennsylvania has a higher chance of solving the mystery of the boy in the box. The murderers of the boy in the box are probably dead at this point, and there would be no way to serve them justice, but there is still a possibility of discovering the boy in the box's true identity and finally giving America's unknown child a name. If you have any information on the boy in the box, Stephen Damon, or Frederick Holmes, please contact the Philadelphia Police Department or the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. I want to thank you all for watching the video, and if you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe for future content and leave a comment down below.